All right, guys. So thanks for coming back. It's been a long hiatus since I've done any kind of podcasting or broadcasting. So welcome to Boots in Transition. And today, before we get started, I have to give a quick shout out to Military Home Base, our sponsor. If you're in any way looking to buy a home and you're a veteran or active duty, please check out Military Home Base at www.militaryhomebase.com. You'll see they have prearranged, the deals vary state to state, but they've prearranged a lot of discounts specific for veterans, and it is run by a military spouse and employs mostly military spouses or military affiliated people. So it keeps in the veteran community. So please, if you can, check them out. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce my guest, Seth Breeze. Seth is a podcaster and I guess we could say philanthropist. He is working with a great nonprofit, Passageways LTD, correct? And they
That's right.
Okay. And you know what, I was going to introduce it, but I think you could probably do better. So why don't you tell us about what Passageways is and what it does?
Yeah. So thanks for having me on your show. I think we actually first touched base I don't know, probably 6 or 7 months ago. And, at that time, I was kind of on the fence about podcasting. I had just gotten into it and kind of was thinking about getting out of it, but I stuck with it. And so I, appreciate the support you offered me because you offered me a ton of advice back then, and I took it to heart and ran with it. And I've stuck with it and it's been an awesome thing, so I want to thank you for that because otherwise, we wouldn't be here today talking about Passageways. So Passageways LTD is a veterans transition assistance program. So we aim to end homeless veteran, the crisis of homeless veterans in the greater Wichita, Kansas area. So that started in about 5 years ago, so about 2015. A news report came out, and there was a news report about a local veteran who died underneath the bridge from cold exposure in the middle of winter. And a woman saw that by the name of Susan, and she was heartbroken. So she called around, and she wanted to know what it is we're doing as a community for homeless veterans. And the answer was nothing. No programs existed whatsoever. There's kind of your general homeless stuff that everybody can go to. There's stuff specific to women, especially if you're a woman with children. There's children's homes, there's women's shelters. For men, you kind of just make a go of it, and then there's various little things like the Lord's Diner. And some places that maybe you can catch a night's rest and then you're kind of back out on the streets. But really, for homeless veterans, nothing existed in the area at all. And she just knew right then and there that she had to do something about that. So with her daughter, they got together and they kind of brainstormed what it is that could be done. And shortly thereafter, they launched Passageways. It's a 501c3 nonprofit, Wichita, Kansas, and they started with nothing. And at first, they were kind of just putting up guys wherever they could. Eventually, they scraped together enough funds and they bought a house. And this house is just a 5-bedroom ranch style house, no basement, and they can house 9 guys at a time. And so in 5 years, they have taken in over 90 guys and graduated 90 guys through the program. And that program consists of a bunch of different things. So if somebody has a sign and they say, "Help, I'm a homeless veteran," what we do is we'll call the police. The police have a homeless outreach team. So they'll go and they'll make first contact with that individual. From there, that person will go to the VA. The VA will establish their credentials as a veteran to make sure that they're not lying, because that does happen a lot, as you can probably imagine. They get them squared away with any immediate healthcare needs that they might have. Get them checked out, make sure that they're physically safe, that they're mentally stable enough to not be in the hospital, right, out in the general population. And then from there, the VA will contact Passageways. And if Passageways has space, then that veteran can come to the house and they can start living in the house. What's interesting about Passageways is it's not a homeless shelter, right? So we don't just take people in for the sake of taking people in. We take people in who want to end homelessness, people who don't want to be homeless any longer. So We differentiate between that for a couple different reasons. You know, some people are wanting a place to stay for the night, and that's all well and good. You know, but that's not what we do. We help rehabilitate veterans who want to get back on their feet. So when they come into the house, they are expected to be sober. So no alcohol, no drugs, and we have a zero tolerance policy on that. And we enforce that, and we have enforced that. And guys have been asked to leave, and that's that. You know, we don't have the capacity to give multiple chances, and there are men in that house who are committed to being sober and clean from drugs and alcohol, and we cannot sacrifice those other guys by even entertaining somebody.
Right. Temptation and
Yeah, it's not fair to them, right? So somebody has been there 6 months and they've been sober. All of a sudden, we have a bad apple and we keep giving them multiple chances. You're more likely to sacrifice that other guy's success, right? It's just not fair. So there's a zero tolerance policy on that, and we enforce it. And so they have to set goals also. So if they come to the house, then they sit down and they set a goal. So if their goal is, okay, I want to be on my own, I want to be financially independent and stable in 6 months, great. We help set that goal. We help them achieve that goal. So one of the ways we do that is we set them up with the VA. So a lot of these guys are out of the military, and for various reasons, they get homeless. And the one thing that they have in common mostly is that they have not been through the VA process at all. And there are things that the VA can do for you, but you have to navigate the machine. And the machine is terrible. It's a mess. So that's one thing that we specialize in, is navigating through that mess and cutting through the bullshit to get guys the help they need. So we know everybody at the VA that needs to be known, right? So we know social workers, we know doctors. They even have the direct number of the director of the VA. So if we're getting the runaround and if nothing's happening, they'll call the director directly, and he'll help us out, which is great. They've got a pretty good working relationship with him, which has been phenomenal. So we get them hooked up with their medical care, right? So a lot of these guys have mental health issues. So we get them hooked up with the VA. If they need medicine, then we get them started on medicine. If they need psychiatric care, then we get that. If they need counselors, you know, there's the vet center, there's the Standard Hospital, Wichita State University. They donate some psychology assistance to some of the guys, you know, so we'll donate an hour pro bono, no cost. So there's a lot of things that we can do to help kind of get these guys set out on the right path. And then from there, then they can start working. So we'll try to get them a job. And so they get a job, they got a little bit of money rolling in, now they can start saving. So maybe they buy a bike, right? So they can start biking to the job, you know, and after a while, maybe they have enough money for a car, and then they can start driving to work. Maybe they are eligible for VA disability benefits and have never gone through the system or have been denied, like so many people do. You know, it's a game, and you sometimes have to apply 12 times. It's not unheard of. So once they get all that, you know, we help them work their finances, because at the end of the day, homelessness is financial. It just is. You either have money or you don't, right? And if you have money, well, then you have the means to have a car to get to work. You have a roof over your head. If you have money, you don't have money, well, you don't have access to those kind of things. So financial
right, have something to get started, right? I mean, it's can't take a shower, you can't get there.
Yeah.
Even what is at, I mean, it's a problem. A lot of people don't understand is that it's a problem that builds on itself.
No, absolutely. And see, the thing is, you can be homeless if you have a car, because if you have a car, you can live in the car. And if you have a car, as long as the car runs and you have a little bit of money for gas, you can drive to work to make more money. But as soon as you lose that car, you're really screwed. And it's almost impossible to break out of that cycle, because your car is your livelihood. So if you lose the car, you don't have anywhere to live that's somewhat warm, and then you don't have the ability to go and make money. You're reliant on public transportation, and depending on the city you live in, which our city, we have it, but it doesn't go everywhere, you know, so you might be walking a long time to get to a bus station and then walk a long time to a job. And It's it's so incredibly difficult, when you're homeless to make those walks and to get up on time, because you don't have an alarm clock. And I mean, if you have a
Not
cell phone, it's
might
great.
not have a shower, might not have any of that. I mean,
Yeah,
how do you stay employed if you don't have your basic hygiene standards available?
yeah, it's really hard. Yeah, you're basically limited to a job where you don't ever have to interact with people, which is very few, and that's going to be something manual labor, right? I mean, it's building something, cleaning something, something like that. So not something that's going to pay a whole lot of money anyway. And yeah, it's a very vicious cycle that you fall into. Surprisingly, it doesn't always have to do with drugs and alcohol. That's kind of an assumption. Most people think that
Right.
because you're homeless, it's because you're a drunk. And what we found is that's not necessarily the case. Sometimes it's a contributing factor, but I would not say that it is the most common thing. I really don't think so. I think, in my opinion, from what I've seen and who I've talked to become homeless, really it comes down to poor financial planning and then a bad life event. And that's really about it. Most of the time, it's
Desirable
something,
for sure.
yeah,
So I was listening to your podcast, and as I mentioned to you before we started, it was Sean's story. Now you said guys, but you've had women go through your program as well, and
yeah.
correct. And Sean,
Well,
is your second to last,
unofficially, yes. Yeah,
right? But her story is
yeah,
really fascinating because, first off, you're not going to find a better advocate for your program. I mean, I'm not a person to get very emotional, but I definitely felt her story as she told it with what she went through. And just to paraphrase for those who haven't seen it or listened to it, I encourage you to check it out. Is she was injured? Correct me if I've got this wrong. I just listened to it today. She was injured out of the military, had some rough spots. She wasn't aware of even what was available to her by the VA. So she falls through. Then you guys helped her out. Now she's going to college.
yep.
I mean, it sounds like she's on the up and up from everything I did, and a heartfelt story. So could you just give me a recap on hers, and then hopefully people will check out your podcast.
Yeah.
I think
So,
it's a good roadmap.
yeah, I met her through Passageways because I do a lot of the interviews for Passageways to try to get some of their social media stuff going and do some of the interviews, put them out on YouTube because they are very interesting stories and they're very captivating and it shows the program in a very good light. And many of the people have graduated through the program, but some have not even been in the program that we've helped. So Passageways has helped 90 men graduate through the program, and of those 90, none have gone back into homelessness. But what we can't do is house women because we only have one facility, and you can imagine having it co-ed and some of the
Yeah.
issues that might cause. So, unfortunately, we're not able to do a ton for the women. All we can do is offer assistance other than housing, right? So,
Okay.
food, resources, clothing, furnishings, and so that's what we did for Sean. She was near homeless and at the very edge of becoming homeless and losing her apartment. So we were able to get her some assistance to where she was able to stay in her apartment. And then we were able to donate a lot of things to help furnish that apartment too. So she didn't really have anything in her apartment. She didn't have pots and pans and dishes. She didn't have furniture, and those are the kind of things that we have in abundance. The city really rallies around us, and we have a warehouse full of stuff.
Oh,
So when
fantastic.
people graduate the program, they get to go, quote unquote, shopping, right? And so they go to the warehouse and they pick out everything: brand new pots, pans, dishes, couches, love seats, beds, anything and everything they could possibly want. So we were able to dive into those surpluses and give those to Sean. Even though she wasn't part of the program, she wasn't a man. It doesn't really matter. She's a veteran,
Right.
right? And we take care of veterans. And so she really appreciated that. And that kind of gave her a leg up. And she was able, through that assistance, to kind of, put a few of those puzzle pieces together and kind of get back on a more stable footing. Yeah, you're right. She's back in college. She's studying criminal justice and social work. She wants to work with at-risk kids, especially those kids that are in the penitentiary system right now. Like she has a heart for those guys, and she gave an interview with me, and you can feel the passion just coming through her voice. And
Absolutely. That's what moved me. Is it was, I mean, it was unscripted, but I don't think you could have scripted a better, description of the success of the
yeah,
help that you got from those. Now, who are the ladies that work with? I saw the YouTube. I went to Passageways on
yeah,
Facebook, and there's two ladies who founded it, I believe.
yep. Susan and Jennifer, it's a mother and daughter team.
Okay.
Yeah,
And as I understand, they go out, they find them. I saw, like they have like, it was almost like a guerrilla YouTube like documentary of them going and
yeah.
helping people. So tell me a little bit about them, how they got the program going, and so people listening want to know how to help.
Yeah, so really, they found a need, and then they just knew that they had a calling, and they pretty much stopped everything and did it. Susan had a full time job working in like senior care. She was a director. She quit her job, and she started Passageways. And Jennifer had a job doing something, I don't remember what it was, and then she quit her job, and together they just launched Passageways. But it's how do you launch a homeless transition center from nothing?
Yeah,
It's
it's
difficult.
hard. It's hard. I
So,
mean, just getting paperwork and getting. I mean,
yeah,
I did a little bit of nonprofit exploring some other options for myself, and it's not an easy thing to do. And in this case, you've got a hard site. I'm sure you've got some liability concerns. You're still bringing people who are somewhat transient into, or that you don't know, into a facility together. What is the facility like? So you're going to have people that have substance abuse issues. You're going to have people who have other counseling issues. Is there anybody on hand to help them, or are they going strictly to the VA?
it's mostly done through the VA. So we are a really small organization right now, but we are growing. And the substance abuse stuff is all done through the VA. So you cannot be actively using or drinking while you're in the house. And we police that pretty seriously. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, there's lots of resources. So we have the VA, there's the vet center, there is a Salvation Army, United Way, there's Catholic Charities. Our Lutheran church is pretty much where this entire thing sprang out of. We have ministers there, so there's no shortage of support personnel that are available. If you need to go AA meetings, like we'll arrange that. We'll get you transportation to go there. If you need to go there every week, yeah, you go there every week. Do whatever you got to do to take care of yourself.
So
We're
basically, if
here
they
to
have
help you.
the motivation and the drive, you guys are providing the resources. But if they don't have the drive and motivation, then they lose that option.
Yeah.
Somebody else gets it. Something I've been
Yep.
thinking a lot about lately. I've got a friend who's doing some stuff at VA for suicide prevention, and the homelessness and the suicide, they really are symptoms of the same issues. I think in a lot of ways, people are kind of left out. They don't see hope. They sort of fall between, and we with the suicides we hold it up real high. As it makes sense. I mean, but then there's a stigma attached to homeless veterans that in a lot of ways are in the same boat. They just haven't committed suicide, but they're still going down that same road. But we don't attach the same sort of, we put a negative stigma on homeless veterans. By and large, people pass them on the street. We blame them for being there, but that's not really the case, is it? I mean, a lot of people are homeless. It's not, you know, it's easy to say in America you can make anything happen, but that's not the truth of it. I'm sure you've seen a lot of examples of people who would just call it bad luck, misfortune, whatever. Can you talk about that for a
Yeah,
minute?
no, it's a little bit of both. There are people who fell on bad luck and became homeless. Those are people who are not homeless for very long because they don't want to be homeless. They go to the VA, they find us, they find ways to get out of it. But there are people who adopt homelessness as a lifestyle.
Okay.
They just do. So it's a little bit of both. And like you said, we can help them, but we can't make them want to succeed. And unfortunately, there are people who sometimes don't want to succeed. Sometimes it takes them a couple of times of going through various programs or trying various outreaches in order for it to work. Because they get in and then maybe they just don't show up for their meetings. Maybe they stop doing what they need to do to meet criteria for certain things, and it happens. It really does happen. So
Depression
it is
and
a little bit
homelessness
of both.
has to be huge on that, I would think. I would think you have a real obstacle with depression, hopelessness. So you guys,
Yep.
obviously you said you get them counseling for that too, but sometimes that's going to be a slow process, right? I mean,
Yep. No, it is. There have guys that have been in the house 3 weeks, and there's have been guys that have been in the house for over a year. And it
okay,
kind of just depends on them, and their individual situation. Some of the guys who kind of accidentally just find themselves in homelessness through bad luck, they tend to kind of bounce back pretty quickly, right? So within like a couple of weeks, maybe they've got a job and they've got enough money to kind of saved up to where they can try to improve their situation. Some of the guys, it takes them a little longer because they have maybe like TBI or PTSD, and it takes them a
right.
while to kind of get a little bit of their autonomy back, that they've lost because of their mental illness, and the mental illness maybe contributed to their situation, so they need to get help. And once they've got that under control, okay, so now we can start moving that ball forward. So we've got you under control. You're feeling a little better. You're feeling stable. You feel like you can leave the house because you don't have panic attacks and anxiety every day. So now you can go to job interviews and get jobs. And so it's a process and it's individual. There's no cookie cutter thing for anybody. So we don't have a program that you can put on a book, and sell people that, okay, do these 10 steps and we'll cure your homelessness. It doesn't work like that because
No,
everybody's different.
yeah, everyone's got different, especially when you're dealing with, myriad of causes, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sympathetic to the fact that, I've been pretty lucky in my life and I'm where I am. Part of it is due to fortune. I've seen I've had soldiers who were active duty, we thought, and turned out they were homeless. We didn't even know. We've had one who was living in a tent out on Old Fort Ord. He was going to the gym in the morning, getting a shower. We didn't find out until he got caught by the cops out there. So it's not like this is something that you might know someone who's homeless and not even realize it. I mean, but how big is this veteran homeless problem to your awareness? I mean, I know I'm not asking to speak nationally, but it's a
Yeah.
bigger problem than people think.
It is. The veteran community represents the single largest demographic of homeless people, for sure.
I didn't know that.
And yeah, so like of any demographic, the veterans are the largest demographic of homeless people. So it's pretty significant. It's different for everybody as to why they fall into homelessness, but the military does a crap job of helping people transition out of the military. And that is really one of the biggest things, and there's so many things that go into that and need to be done to address that. But ultimately, if somebody's in the military and then the next day they're not, there needs to be a transition, right? So that's not really a transition, that's a jump off the cliff, and now we have transition assistance programs, and that helps a little bit, but that's so generic and so high level. I really feel like it needs to be like a 6 month thing. So if you enlist for 4 years, it should be 4 years and 6 months, and that 6 months is like fluid, right? So in that 6 months, the expectation is, okay, you no longer have to report to duty necessarily, but in that 6 months, you're still going to get paid, but that's your time to transition, right? So that you need to be job interviewing, you need to be internshipping, you need to be connected with like affiliate groups of other veterans for mentorship and things like that. And if we did a little bit more of that, then you would have less culture shock. Because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes guys get in the military and then they get out and they don't know what the civilian world is like anymore because they've been in the military for so long.
Right, right. And well, I see a lot of groups trying to pick up the slack on that, and it's great that they are, but at the same time, I think that's overwhelming evidence that we need people to pick up the slack because it's not there. And I've known a lot of people since I've been doing this. I quit broadcasting for a while because I didn't feel like I was really getting any traction. But then over the last year, a few months, people have come to me and said, "Hey, I really liked it, and I was going to help." They just weren't saying it. And then I reminded myself that veterans are the worst for asking for help. So we just are. Pride, whatever it
Yeah.
is, we are. But I also see a lot of people failing their transitions. People who are friends of mine. I'm involved in sport. We get a lot of veterans in there, and I can see them failing their transition. Either they don't know where to go, they don't know what they're qualified for, they take jobs that they hate and they're miserable, and they're really not transitioning well. So I think that it's a steep drop off, but I can see that linear path for some of them where they could end up homeless, uh, just watching
Yeah.
as a kid. So, I guess the point being is that, the stereotype of what a homeless veteran is couldn't be more wrong. And I think what you guys are doing is really fantastic. So tell me how people can learn more about it and how they can support it.
Yeah, so the best thing to do would be go to the Facebook page, search for Passageways LTD on Facebook, and they'll pop up. And the ladies are doing, 5 to 6 Facebook live feeds a day. So if you want to find out what they're up to, that's the easiest thing to do. And then from there, once you kind of find out what we're all about, and if you like us, you can consider being a donor. And you can do that right from our website, passagewaysltd.org. There's a donate tab, and it's all linked through Facebook as well. Facebook will take you right where you need to be, because that's kind of our bread and butter is the Facebook page. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, we appreciate the help, because we're getting ready to launch the next operation, which is Operation Home. So we're going from a single house that can hold 9 guys, and we're developing an entire neighborhood, and it's
Wow.
going to be 56 acres. Yeah, it's a gated community solely for homeless veterans. 56 acres, and they're going to be cottage homes. So they're going to be like 900 square feet. And in these, guys can have their families, right? Because right now, you can't have your family in the house. You can't have a service animal, and we can't have women. But an Operation Homefront, 56 acres full of cottages, we can have families, women, service animals, and it's all going to be in a community setting. It's all going to be like cul-de-sac based. That's happening.
When
Yeah.
do you guys when do you guys start breaking ground on that?
Well, we hope to do it this year, 2020.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So
But
obviously people are helping you with that. Give some shout outs. Who are your sponsors for helping you guys get that done? Any big ones?
we don't have any big ones. This is mostly just grassroots.
Oh,
Yeah. So part of what I'm doing is spreading the word, man, because something like that needs to happen, and we are being looked at nationally by all kinds of other groups who want to emulate what we've done and the success we've had, and they're looking to do the same. And we have set the bar pretty high with our standards and our successes, and we're proud of that. And we hope to do that even further with Operation Homefront. But yeah, we just need people to be passionate about it, be passionate about it. And if you like it, if you want to see it succeed, then, consider being a donor, because everything we donate goes right back to veterans. We're not wounded warriors where we keep 99 cents on the dollar. That's not what we do. We're pretty transparent. And, it goes straight back into the guys. And we have 90 guys who are no longer homeless, 90 guys in 5 years.
Yeah, employed, I take it, or, at least.
Yeah, every single one of them.
It's 90 lives saved, essentially. That's fantastic.
Yeah, and none of those 90 guys have gone back into being homeless.
So Passageways LTD on Facebook, online. And you guys obviously need some support, and we'll talk offline. I got some ideas for that. And so check them out, please, if you can. Thanks, Seth. And we're going to have you back on another day to talk about your podcast, because obviously I'm podcasting's tricky business. Yours is great. You say I helped you out. Yours is way better than mine ever was. You got your audio quality is fantastic on there. I'm technical. I have technical issues a lot, but fantastic. I like your podcast, and we'll have that on another day for people who want to get into that. But hey, thanks for coming on, Seth. I really appreciate it, and hope to have you back on again.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been great.
All right, thanks.
Bye.